All right, folks, welcome back to the Powers on Sports podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed my chat with my man, Tom James, voice of the Florida Gulf Coast Golden Eagles, as well as Super Bowl participant, worked out in the Super Bowl last week. And hope you enjoyed our chat about all things Tom James, because he is a great dude. So next up, my other partner in crime, my man who I did all the post-game, pre- and post-game halftime shows with during the regular season out at Ducky's Sports Bar in Tampa. My man, the host of the Sports Web, the online show, part of the Sports Hub. My man, Peter Blake, is back on the podcast. Welcome back, Peter.
What's going on, buddy? Long time no see. We got to get you back on the Sports Web here. You haven't been X'd off the guest list. Plenty to talk about, isn't there? I mean, Super Bowl 56, Buccaneer quarterback situations. I'm raring to go. Let's do this.
Let's get into it. Let's get right into it. Super Bowl 56, Los Angeles, 23-20 final. Stafford and the Rams get it done late on a late drive in the last 2 minutes. Cooper Kupp scores with about 1:40 left in the game. Burrow gets the Bengals back to midfield. 2nd and 1 at midfield with about 1:20 to go. Cannot get another yard, 3 straight plays and get nothing. Your thoughts, Super Bowl 56?
Well, first and foremost, look, Cincinnati early on in that second half got away with something with T. Higgins going for 75 yards. So that was a penalty. So let's get that out of the way. I was disappointed to see the last 2 minutes of the game once again be decided by the refs.
I disagree.
That was disappointing to me. I didn't see a penalty on Wilson, on the linebacker, although you got to give credit to where credit is due. Matt Stafford leading the Rams down on that game-winning drive. Cooper Kupp amazing in this game. 8 catches for 92 yards, 2 touchdowns. But it was disappointing to see that because the majority of that game, the refs let them play. Now, with all that being said, you're exactly right. The big-time matchup, and we talked about it over and over again, was the Bengals offensive line versus the Rams defensive line, and they failed miserably because Joe Burrow not only got hurt in the game, but was sacked 70 times during the year, and that includes regular season and postseason. So that was the reason why the Rams won the game. Aaron Donald was unbelievable. Cooper Kupp was unbelievable. And I tell you right now, if you watch the replay, and I think he's one of the most overrated players in the NFL, and that would be Jalen Ramsey, because Mike Evans toasted and roasted him on supposedly Tom Brady's last touchdown. He fell down. If Joe Burrow has a couple extra seconds, he hits Jamar Chase for a 49-yard touchdown. And we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals winning the Super Bowl, Jason Powers.
No, I mean, give the Bengals credit for the first half. Their offensive line played well. Burrow didn't. I think he got sacked 1 time in the first half. Mm-hmm. I heard a stat on the last 21 dropbacks of the game for the Bengals. Last 21 dropbacks, sacked 6 times. I mean, it was incredible how that offensive line just melted down in that 3rd and 4th quarter, where they played pretty well in the first half. They kept him upright. He got the ball out of his hands. He wasn't holding on to the ball. But the last quarter and a half, it was ugly. And again, like we all talked about, that was the matchup of the game. If the Bengals could keep him upright, the Bengals were going to be right there in the game, and they were. Let's get back to early in the game. Mm-hmm. Bad break for the Rams on that first play of the second half. T. Higgins, clearly grabs Ramsey's face mask and dislodges him out of position to be able to catch the ball, go 75 yards. Right. That's a play the back judge has to get. That's not the side judge's call. The back judge has to see that, and he missed that. Get back to your call late in the game on the crossing route by Kupp. Did the linebacker hook him enough? Did he hold him? I think, just personally as an official, and you know me, I try to be objective. I'm not here to defend the officials. When you hook him around that waist a little bit, especially when he's crossing your face on a crossing route, that creates an advantage. Was it the worst holding I've ever seen or the worst interference call? I can't say that, but I think it created enough of an advantage to where he was able to knock the ball away personally.
Well, I mean, look, and I understand that, but the way they're calling the game, the majority of it, they're letting them play. So why not let them play in that situation? And of course, that opens up Pandora's box, if you will. And people start to say, well, the reason why the Rams won the Super Bowl is because the NFL and the refs wanted them to.
No.
I would rather them, play it through. I get it. Cooper Kupp is a tough matchup versus an Eli Apple and a linebacker. I get it. Cincinnati's defense is just not good enough, but just, I don't know.
Well,
When
you say let them play, Pete, then the play to T. Higgins gets allowed to happen for a 75-yard touchdown.
Well, no, I agree with you. Cincinnati got the benefit of that call too, but the majority of the game, you would have to say that the refs let them play, right?
I don't think there was a lot of plays in that game before the last 2 minutes that were even in question as far as was that interference. I thought both teams played pretty well defensively up until I think when you get to the last 2 minutes, if you're the Bengals on defense, right, you're going to be a little more desperate. It's 1st and goal at the 8 or whatever it was, 3rd and goal at the 8. You're up against it. You're going to be more aggressive and do something a little more desperate because there's not any time left in the game. So to me, I think if you're the official, you have to make that call there. Just like on the next play, when Cooper Kupp got molested in the corner of the end zone, you have to call that.
Well, you definitely have to call that, but the linebacker play, I didn't agree with that, and that gives them second life. And I get it. I understand that the defense has to stand up and stop them. And we knew that the Bengals weren't a good enough defense to do that. But you saw earlier on in the game, not only Cincinnati going for 4th down, which cost them, but also later on in the game, I can't understand. You got Joe Mixon, who is going on 17 carries for 72 yards. Yeah. I mean, he's really killing it. And the majority of the year, when you have to get 1 or 2 yards, and for some unknown reason, and Zach Taylor talked about this today, it was my fault. We should have called a timeout or should have got somebody in there, but we kept Perrine in there. Oh, by the way, that also cost you the game. I don't understand it. You're going shotgun at that point. You're trying to fool somebody. I mean, go under center, run right, Joe Mixon, and maybe you pick up that 1 or 2 yards. And instead, you're calling a 4th down situation, which is a mismatched nightmare because that offensive line was like Swiss cheese the other night, especially in that second half when they seemed like they pissed off Aaron Donald. He was a man possessed after that incident on the sideline where, look, I get it, the Bengals are defending his honor, but it was a clean hit on Joe Burrow after that. He was just a man among boys. But, early on in the game, I saw the Rams hold T. Higgins, and they didn't call it. I'm just saying call it consistently, and I've always said that. I get it. Being a referee in any league is a tough job. But if you're going to call it one way, don't call it the other. Just be consistent.
No, there's a merit there. Again, a big moment of the game for me was I think the game would have gotten probably a little bit more separation if Odell Beckham doesn't go down with a knee injury. He was charbroiling them as the number 2 option. He was going to have a huge game, and when he went out of that game, that brought the game closer because Skoranek and Van Jefferson are not elite number 2 receivers at all. That means the Bengals could really, really force the coverage on Kupp and squeeze those other guys down.
You said Skoranek. God bless you, and you're exactly right. OBJ, 2 catches for 52 yards, and he really is dominant, and it's a shame because it's the same ACL he actually tore last year versus the Bengals. So that offense looked absolutely discombobulated when he went out. They got it together. Of course, Cooper Kupp, once again, just being a killer, Super Bowl MVP. And I'll tell you right now, they absolutely deserved it. Good for Matt Stafford, good for Aaron Donald. And what you hear today, which, by the way, it seemed like it was a sparse crowd, and I get it. You're going through COVID restrictions, but goodness gracious, you go from the Tampa Bay, boat parade with Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to that reaction out in LA. I don't know what you're doing at that point. Of course, they said they were going to run it back. The coach is going to come back. There was
I don't want to hear I don't want to hear Sean McVay and Aaron Donald threatening retirement. Please stop. You're
30 years old and you're threatening retirement. I mean,
all Donald's trying to do is get a new contract. He wants to be, because right now he's like the 5th highest paid defensive player. All he's looking for is a new contract. So please shut up, Aaron Donald. Shut up.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I know you wouldn't say that to his face because the guy was flexing today. He should be in like WWE or AEW. I mean, who knows? Maybe WWE should pick him up It'll be good for his ratings. That guy is just jacked up, and you can see what a nightmare he is to block. And that offensive lineman, whoever it was, it wasn't getting it done versus Donald last Sunday. So we'll see what happens.
I think Donald was in the Mike Evans draft. Was he in the Mike Evans draft?
He was.
Okay, so I know there was a lot of talk that year. Do you take a defensive lineman, Donald, because we needed one to go along with McCoy? And they obviously took Mike Evans. So the Buccaneers, you can't complain about the Buccaneers taking a future Hall of Famer in Evans.
No, you can't. And I remember Bill Polian on ESPN saying, look, Lovie Smith, his trend would be to draft an Aaron Donald. So I'll ask you, Jason Powers, with what we know about both of those players, would you redraft a Mike Evans? Or would you go with an Aaron Donald? And do you think it would change the fortunes of this Buccaneer team?
No, you needed a wide receiver threat at that time. You absolutely needed a number one receiver. He is, again, both guys are going to be Hall of Famers. So you can't make an argument of, well, we shouldn't have taken Mike Evans. Sure. The guy's going to be a Hall of Famer, and he's been an elite receiver for his whole career.
Yeah, agree. Absolutely agree with that. Consistent, 8,000-yard seasons now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So, all right, let's get to, first of all, by the way, for you gamblers out there, a bad beat if you had the Rams -3.5 and my man Johnny Hecker with some slick motor oil donut hands on the extra point botch of the extra point, which turns out to be the difference if you have the Rams -3.5. Oops. And they win by 3. Thank you very much.
I got to play this sound effect.
Yeah. A lot of people excited in Vegas. If you had the Bengals plus the 4.5, and obviously if you had the Rams -3.5, you were screaming and hollering when you just knew when Johnny Hecker dropped that snap early in the second quarter, this one could come back to roost as far as the point spread goes.
And you're exactly right about that. And the Bengals had a lead 20-16. You're like, oh my God, the Bengals may win the Super Bowl. And Joe Burrow, do you think they can get back there next year or in a couple years, or does he become like a lot of, look, Dan Marino in his second year got to the Super Bowl and never got back again? Is it one of those cases, or do you think that Bengal team and Joe Burrow can get back to the big dance?
No, they're going to be a solid team for the next 4 or 5 years because a lot of those guys are young, especially on offense. You have to get him some linemen. Obviously, that'll be the only focus of the draft and free agency this year for them. To me, will be a little bit of defense and obviously 2 or 3 offensive linemen at the minimum, as far as you're investing your resources in that position, because they got a left tackle, but other than the left tackle, the other 4 spots are up for grabs, and you have to overhaul that, just like the Bucs did with Brady. You have to make sure that guy's upright, and if he is, you got a chance to go to some more Super Bowls in the next 5-6 years.
And I feel like the available options in free agency, namely an Alex Kappa or Ryan Jensen, will be absolutely on that Bengals radar for them.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And they will make a concerted effort to upgrade that spot, because that's defensively they could use a cornerback and a couple things on defense, but offensively that's the number one priority for that franchise, is to keep Joe Burrow healthy and upright. Because again, you would hate to see a Joe Burrow turn into Andrew Luck. Great talent, but he gets hit so many times that he's just physically, and his body just breaks down from an injury perspective. And you'd hate to see that.
And basically, you've seen Andrew Luck lately. He's lost, it seems like he's lost about 30 or 40 pounds. He's got a mustache. He kind of looks, like, I don't know what he looks like at this point. Looks like he's trying out to be a porn star or something.
Yeah, he's always been a little odd and quirky as far as his look and his, all that stuff. I mean,
was he the player? Was it him, or was it the other quarterback at USC that stayed in? I don't think it was him, but I thought it was a quarterback that stayed in to take dancing courses or something.
Matt Leinart. Matt Leinart stayed last year at USC.
There you go.
Because he wanted to run through the talent at USC as well on the weekends. Post-game. He wanted to have a lot of post-game parties.
Yeah, so it kind of cost him a little bit of money, because I feel like if he comes out that 1 year, more than likely he's the number 1 overall pick. And I think he went like 7 or 10 to Arizona at the time. So he kind of dropped, but
Matt Leinart lived his best life. You can't blame Matt Leinart. How many stories that guy could tell about some USC talent is probably endless.
I agree. Absolutely. Just sit down and listen.
All right, let's get to some free agents. Let's get to the Buccaneers quarterback situation. A lot of talk, a lot of speculation. What's going to happen in the next 3 weeks or so? The league year starts March 16th. The combine's here in a couple of weeks in Indianapolis. A lot of talk here in the Tampa Bay area and around the league. What are the Bucs going to do? A lot of chatter in the last few days. Kyler Murray not happy in Arizona. You got Russell Wilson's situation. Sounds like Carson Wentz is either going to be traded or released, probably released by the Colts. And the wild card name that we're hearing in the last couple of days, Deshaun Watson. Just what are your general thoughts about the Buccaneers court? You think they're going to be big game hunting? And which of those names do you think is a realistic, viable opportunity for the Bucs to pursue?
Well, thanks to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the quarterback situation, that has made my shows that much easier to do on a given night here, because all we have talked about, Jason Powers, is the Tom Brady situation. He has not come out and said officially, I'm retired. He's come out and said the last couple of weeks, never say never, take it day by day. Now you hear rumors that there were friction in the Buccaneer organization. He may want to play for somebody else, but the Bucs own his right. So could they be holding out hope? I would think so, but I would also think in the next couple weeks before free agency, you would want to determine if he's going to come back and play, or do you have to go out there and big quarterback hunt? And I think you're going to have to, because of all the free agents you have. If I'm Chris Godwin and you have Russell Wilson coming to town, or Aaron Rodgers or Carson Wentz,
right,
am I going to sign with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers more than if you tell me you got Blaine Gabbert or Kyle Trask? Absolutely. And I feel like the Glazers and Jason Light and Spy Tech and Mike Greenberg, they're all smart guys. They know how to handle this cap. So everybody's saying, you know what, they're in a cap situation. They can't get out. They can get out of it. They can move money around. Now, the case is, who are you going to have to move money around for? You talk about Deshaun Watson. We talked about him ad nauseum, 22 allegations. The legal stuff has to work itself out. But not only that, you're going to have to give up 3 first-round draft picks. And the report came out today that he's gone all Britney Spears, and the Bucs are on his radar and the Vikings are on his radar. Don't ask me how I know that. I've got lots of sisters. I'm not surprised by that, because, as you know, the fans are saying, well, Tom Brady's gone. You're not going to be a playoff team, not even a Super Bowl contender. If you get the right quarterback, you will. So he sees the opportunity. Russell Wilson, 33 years old. You're going to have to pay him some money. You're going to have to move that around. Does he want to leave Seattle? I think he does, but his comments suggest he doesn't want to go. Aaron Rodgers, who knows? So Carson Wentz, to me, if he's cut, and I think there's certainly a possibility of that happening, because there could be a massive cap hit there. You get him for nothing. A Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe you get him for nothing. Even a Jameis Winston, as crazy as it sounds, I'm throwing it out there. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's being mentioned because Winston knows this offense. I think those are more likely scenarios. But then I'll sit here and tell you, I didn't think Tom Brady was going to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, and it happened. So who knows what Jason Light, BA, and the Glazers have up their sleeves. It's going to be very interesting, Jason Powers, in the next couple weeks.
I think, again, you're going to see a lot of speculation and chatter at the combine, because that's where a lot of these deals happen with agents, executives, team guys. They're all talking in secrecy at the combine. So you're going to see a lot of chatter at the combine that's going to create a lot of speculation about what the Bucs do or don't do. Again, if Deshaun Watson was free and clear of these allegations, he's worth 3 number 1 picks, especially if you know you're going to be drafted late in the first round. You give up 3 number 1s all day long for a 25-year-old quarterback that's under contract for another 4 or 5 years at a manageable salary cap number.
No concern bringing him in that locker room.
Again, I agree that they're going to have some PR work to do with the community when you bring in a guy, especially after you had Jameis Winston with the allegations with Winston. Yes, from a PR perspective, you're going to definitely have some questions to answer and some serious things to answer. But if he were to get exonerated, or if he doesn't settle type deal and these cases are dropped, that's a different story. I get it. You can't bring him in not knowing what the situation is. But if the situation gets resolved somehow in the next month, I would give up 2 to 3 ones for Deshaun Watson at this stage of his age and his productivity in his career so far.
And look, if it was just based on talent, it would be, a no-brainer at that point. But what it comes down to is if you trade for him, you don't know if Roger Goodell and the
Right.
NFL are going to suspend him 8 to 12 games. And then on top of it, the Bucs have just gone through this AB situation. Do they want to bring on another distraction? So I'm not really sure if they're going to go that direction. I understand it, his youth, what he can bring on the field, but the off the field stuff, I think, would scare this organization. You could go with a guy like a Russell Wilson, possibly Carson Wentz, a Jimmy G, somebody out there like
Wilson.
that.
Wilson's the guy I think you keep an eye on. I think that's the guy. 33 years old. You could sign him to a 5-year contract.
Yep.
You could trade 2 number ones and a player. They got some young defensive backs that you could trade a Jamel Dean or somebody like that. If you had to sweeten the deal. I think Russell Wilson's the guy to be on the lookout for. If you can convince him and Sierra that Tampa's a big enough market for her music career and all that stuff, I think that's the guy that you look out for if you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan.
Absolutely. And if you're Chris Godwin and you sign a Russell Wilson, are you coming back? You absolutely believe he's coming back. And, some of the estimates right now are a 4-year, $70 million. And according to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, Godwin is excited to hit the market. And I get that, but really, you go to a situation, you have Mike Evans on one side. I mean, why leave Tampa if you get a decent quarterback? And that's not Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask. And I think Trask could be a guy that eventually contributes to this team. I'm just not sure if he's ready. And the Bucs have told you he's not ready because Jason Light was asked about it. And he said, I'm not going to call him the heir apparent. We're going to explore every avenue. And Wilson definitely might be on that list. Now, the report on Sunday from Chris Mortensen about Kyler Murray, does that give you, pause for cause, if you will, saying, you know what, he's got a red flag, he's immature.
Here's the deal: if you trade for Kyler Murray, he's not going to go for the trade unless you sign him to a contract extension. He's not going to come over to Tampa without a new contract. That's going to be part of any deal if he were to get traded.
Does he fit a BA's offense? He's progressively every year gotten better. He's a young quarterback, but what you hear from Mike Garafolo of NFL Media is that he basically quit. He said he's done to Colt McCoy. He didn't want to go back in. That's why the organization was like, you know what? This guy needs to step up. He needs to be more mature. He needs to have more of a voice in that locker room. I mean, does that, you kind of say, because I was asking Dennis Phillips on my show tonight, and he said, well, I didn't know that. That would kind of, sway me away from picking up a Murray. Would that sway you away, Jason Powers, from picking?
Again, I don't know enough of. I know he's had some contentious situations with the organization, and he seems to be a little bit not the greatest leader in the world. I get that. I mean, again, would I pay the farm for Kyler Murray? No, I wouldn't trade 2 or 3 number ones. But if I could get him for a 1 and a player, maybe. Because remember, if you make a trade for a Wilson or a Watson or one of these guys, Trask might be going the other way to the other team. So that might be a situation where the other team wants a quarterback that they could potentially develop. Houston, Seattle could say, hey, we'll take Kyle Trask. He's a cheap option as part of the deal, because you're obviously saying if you sign one of those guys, Trask is not going to be the guy in Tampa.
And to me, I think the Philadelphia Eagles are in on this because they have multiple first-round picks this year. Yep. And on top of it, they can offer a Jalen Hurts. The thing is, does Russell Wilson want to go to Philadelphia? Does Deshaun Watson want to go to Philadelphia? And as many as much as that team may want those, draft picks, it also is up to that player. So I think this is an attractive destination. I still think they're a playoff team. You just right now got to figure out that quarterback situation. It starts with Brady. It kind of ends with Brady. And it'll be interesting to see if this Buccaneer organization in the next couple of weeks kind of gives some clarity to the situation.
Yeah, I mean, again, in the clarity of the situation is also going to affect Bruce Arians. Because if they can't land one of these big quarterbacks, don't be surprised if Bruce Arians retires and they name either Leftwich or Byron or Todd Bowles the coach. I don't think.
Let me ask you this. Let me throw this out there because I heard this on a show this week. Do you think there was friction enough for Brady to retire, and it's possibly BA and the way he's handled things? Because what you hear from other, and I get it, it's news time. You're trying to create news in the cycle, but multiple sources have said this, that there was friction with Brady and the organization, that he felt like it was too unbuttoned. It wasn't buttoned up enough. as New England was. Do you feel like if Brady has to come back, not only do the Bucs have to prove they're all in and re-sign most of their free agents, but is there a possibility that Brady wants BA to step aside for a younger coach like a Byron Leftwich and let Brady have more control over that offensive play calling?
That's an interesting thought. I heard the rumors that there was some friction. I don't know what friction Tom was. He was pretty much. If you don't think he wasn't calling a lot of those plays, you don't think that BA didn't allow him to recreate the offense around his skill set. I think we're all crazy because we all know that happened last year at the bye week.
I think so too. I absolutely think so. But you just hear different things and different people saying, it was different in the building. And this is more from, JP Peterson, who's, a friend. And I watched his show and he had Solomon Wilcots on from NFL Media. And he was saying, look, it was tougher in the building. And it was like they were telling him, we're going to do it this way instead of the way that it worked when you guys won the Super Bowl. And Brady was kind of miffed by that. And if that's what happened, and I also threw this out there, and again, this is just me speculating. I don't have any insight on this, but could there have been a situation where, look, AB gets the fake vaccination card. BA says, you know what? I don't want you on the team. And Tom says, you know what? We have to have him on the team. And there's a little bit of a rift. And then basically AB quits, and that rift continued because of Brady sticking his neck out in the line for an AB. Do you think that's a possibility?
If Tom Brady is holding Bruce Arians responsible for Antonio Brown, that's pretty weak on Tom Brady's part because, Tom Brady, he made it very apparent, Bruce Arians did, that he didn't want Antonio Brown. He allowed Tom to bring him in, gave him every chance in the world to skate by and not get in trouble. Antonio Brown did this to himself and did it to Tom Brady. Antonio Brown screwed Tom Brady.
Agreed.
And the Buccaneers.
Agree. And I'm trying to figure out what the turmoil comment was from Levante David at the end of the season. And I figure, it's the dividing of the locker room. It's the AB situation. Who knows? But It seems like there was something not right.
I agree. I think you're going to see a lot of changes on the Buccaneer defense. I think they're going to be some of the older guys are going to be gone. The JPPs of the world. Sue probably won't be back. Gronk won't be back unless Brady were to return. OJ Howard's probably going to be gone. So there's going to be some turnover on the roster, and they need to get younger. They need some younger blood in there. You're going to see a couple of these draft picks of the last couple of years get an opportunity to play, whether it's Hainsey at center. You're going to see either Kappa or Jensen or both are going to be gone. One of those two for sure is going to be gone, most likely Kappa. Jensen might stay depending on the price. But again, Hainsey's going to be in the mix. Again, it wouldn't shock me if Donovan Smith is traded and Wirfs has moved over to left tackle.
Wow.
Wouldn't shock me. Again, wouldn't shock me because, again, that's a salary cap situation for the Buccaneers. You could cut a lot of salary right there by trading Donovan Smith. And somebody would trade for Donovan Smith. He's a good enough tackle at that price. Somebody would trade for him. You could get a third or fourth round pick for that guy. No problem.
Well, you could definitely blow up that offensive line, or you could restructure some deals and free up some money. And the Bucs have been known to do that. I still think they like Donovan Smith, even though Smith struggled versus Von Miller in that playoff game. But, Tristan Wirfs, his natural position, right, in college was what, the left side? Left side, He played from left side. I don't think it's his natural. He's usually the right. But I don't know. I think you don't necessarily have to blow up the offensive line. What you have to do, you have to look at your figures, right? I mean, who's more important? Is it Ryan Jensen, still one of the best centers in the league, Pro Bowler? Alex Kappa, also a Pro Bowler for this team, but he's going to cost a pretty penny, a lot younger.
You got Stinney. Remember, you got Aaron Stinney. You can plug in for Kappa.
Correct. Exactly.
That's played well, and he's played well.
Right. I think that's where you go. You keep Hainsey as a swing player because he very versatile. I could
center. They trained him at center a lot this year too. He's kind of been talked about as being the heir apparent at center for Jensen.
Right. And you also have Nick Leverett. So they have some depth on this offensive line. So if you let an Alex Kappa go, it's not the end of the world because, like you said, Aaron Stinney has played well in his absence. He showed that in the Super Bowl year. So again, it's not all doom and gloom, but for me, the priorities on this team, namely, is Chris Godwin. You got to get him signed. I get it. He's coming off an injury. And the report is from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, the Bucs would have already had this extension done if not for his injury. of course, coming off a year with 98 receptions and really an integral part of this offense in the slot. And then a Carlton Davis. I mean, who do you franchise? I think you franchise a Carlton Davis. You try to get a Chris Godwin signed, but it comes down to, Jason, who do you get at quarterback? If I'm Chris Godwin, I can go to a better situation with a better quarterback. I mean, who's to say you wouldn't go to the Packers? If the Packers supposedly are all in and they're willing to pay the money, could you imagine if you re-sign a Devontae Adams and you get a Chris Godwin? That's a scary, scary lineup. I don't want to think about that. So very important for the Bucs to make a decision here in the next couple of weeks on who their quarterback is going to be going forward.
Here's the problem with God. Here's the thing I think is going to favor the Bucs keeping Godwin. One, the knee injury. He's not going to be ready to go till late in training camp. It's not going to be like he's ready to go in May. He's not going to be ready to go minimum until probably August. And even this whole first year could be one of those years where he's just recovering from the injury and not back to his full self. Who knows? Hopefully that's not the case. But I can't see another. I know he's a good guy and all that stuff. But bottom line, he's got a knee injury, a major knee injury. I don't know if a team's going to say, here's $75 million to Chris Godwin. I think he would take a discount to get the payday from the Buccaneers personally. And again, I think part of his decision will be what the quarterback situation is, but he also realizes I got a great number one on one side. I don't have to deal with all the coverage. Mike Evans gets a lot of it. I'm going to have a good offensive scheme in place here. I don't have to move my family, warm weather, better on my knee, grass, all those things play into a decision when you're coming off a major knee injury.
Great points. But we know that bad teams are overpay, but I think Chris Godwin re-signs with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I actually think the Bucs need to invest in a third wide receiver because Tyler Johnson developed enough. I love Tyler Johnson. I interviewed him a long time ago at the Outback Bowl. Seems like a good kid, but drops way too many passes, not consistent enough. Scotty Miller not involved in the offense. Jalen Darden, who knows what you're going to get from him. You may have to go out and get a free agent wide receiver, or you may look to the draft and get somebody because there's some kids out there, namely a guy from Penn State, Jahan Dotson, who didn't play in the bowl game. Disappointed I didn't get a chance to see him in the Outback Bowl. He could fit in this, Buccaneer offense, and also a Traylon Burks out of Arkansas. And
another name that you could probably get at that spot of the draft because he's coming off an injury, Jamison Williams, Alabama. Even if he doesn't play next year, if you draft him knowing he's going to be ready to go full blown the next year, he could be a guy that replaces a Mike Evans as he gets older, replaces a Godwin to be your deep speed threat. And that's what the Buccaneers need, is a speed threat. And Jamison Williams is a burner.
Yeah, you can't teach speed, my friend. You can't teach it. Greasy speed, as Mickey would say to Rocky in that movie. Greasy speed, you got to have it, and hopefully the Bucs will be looking at that.
All right, let's get to one more topic. I'll get you out of here. Let's get to the Rays Stadium. Lots of speculation now that they're trying to get a deal done here in Tampa. I know you are a huge, huge fan of Mr. Sternberg. Wink, 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 wink.
Yes. I don't know what was worse. That proposal to do the sister city plan, which was asinine, Jason Powers, from the very beginning, or the Zoom press conference where nobody knows what the hell is going on. And consequently, that's how I felt about the Rays in this whole situation. They don't know what the hell was going on. They thought they had Major League Baseball's approval. They didn't. Look, we're turning the page. I hope it ends up in Tampa. But at the end of the day, I also hope that Sternberg will not only pay half for this stadium, but also when he gets the stadium that he wants, that he doesn't become the Miami Marlins where he sells off the whole team. I hope they stay competitive. And please, he talks about this in the Zoom conference. I want to see more attendance. Hey, Stu, I want to see you spend over $100 million. I want to see you be a top 15 spending team in Major League Baseball. Can we have that?
Peter, we've had this discussion. Say what you want about Sternberg as a frugal. The guy's put a 100-win team on the field the last several years. And say what you want.
How many world championships has that?
Okay, that's a managerial problem. That's not a Stu Sternberg problem. That's a Kevin Cash problem.
Who makes that decision at the end of the day?
Okay. You want him to fire Kevin Cash?
No, I want him to stay out of it. I want Kevin Cash to be the manager. I don't think Kevin Cash is making all those managerial moves. I think it's from the front office. And I'll tell you this, Jason, and we've gotten into this conversation. The majority of the teams that have won the last 15 years are over $100 million. So why do you think you can fake the funk? I mean, think about it. If you decided instead of
can we get 20,000 people on a Saturday night?
Yeah, you can. You usually can get 20,000 on a Saturday night.
Not really.
But the problem is you can't draw on a Tuesday or Wednesday night. You know why?
Yeah.
Because they don't do anything to make it an event.
Well,
and
that's
you know
why
what?
he wants a new stadium. That's why he needs a stadium.
You know, I want them to spend $100 million. I want them to re-sign a Charlie Morton. I want them to re-sign a guy like Blake Snell instead of going out there and thinking that you're the smartest person in the room by getting a Chris Archer, by getting a Rich Hill, by getting another pitcher that's not going to be on this roster, because consequently, yes, you are a 100-win team, but you meet the Boston Red Sox and you run out of starting pitching because you wanted to be cheap. That's the reason
they run out of starting pitching because that's their formula. Analytics is not they don't run out of arms. That's the philosophy. You can argue the philosophy. You can argue the analytics versus non-analytics. But what you can't argue is he's put a winning product on the field to the Tampa Bay community. And we've shown, we're all part of this community. We've not supported it enough. Forget about whether you like analytics or not. On a Tuesday night when there's 8,000 people when the Yankees are in town or when a good team's in town, that's abysmal when your team's winning 90 to 100 games.
Why should I go when the owner tells me every time, you know what? I can't.
Then why do they go? Why do they go in the playoffs? Why do they go in the playoffs then?
Why do they go in the playoffs? Because they do a hell of a job. But you know what? They haven't won a world championship,
okay.
Jason. The blueprint is out there. How do they compare to the Tampa Bay Lightning? They don't. You know why? Because Jeff Finnick and the ownership go all in. How do they compare to the Glazers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? They don't, because the Glazers and the Bucs go all in. Do the Rays go all in?
No, because they have
there you go. That's the reason why.
They don't because they don't have the gold mine chest that the Lightning have with 20,000 in the stadium. Really? They don't get it. They don't get a check from the NHL and the NFL for.
They don't.
It's not revenue sharing. They don't share the revenue in baseball.
Wait a minute. So the Yankees and the Red Sox don't share that revenue with them?
No.
Yes, they do. Yes, no. They do. They give them that revenue because they don't. No. They're a small market team. But I will tell you this: show me the books. Because I tell you, if you try to show me the books at the end of the day, what you're going to find out is Stu Sternberg is taking money and putting it in his pocket instead of investing in the team. And over the time that he's been the owner, how many fan favorites has he gotten rid of? That's the reason why you have low attendance. Not only location, but also because the fans don't give a damn. And they shouldn't give a damn. You know why? Because the blueprint has been put out there.
So you're half-assed. Okay, all right. So you're telling me you weren't a fan of trade when Chris Archer got traded for Glasnow and Austin Meadows? That's not a hell of a trade.
I'm not saying it's not a hell of a trade. I'm not.
He was a fan favorite. When he got traded, he was a fan favorite.
There are other guys that they've gotten rid of over time that fans have been upset with, and it's also the comments, constant comments.
I agree. He needs to keep his mouth shut. He needs to keep his mouth shut.
There you go. Let the truth set you free, as Jim Carrey would say, and liar, liar. You're exactly right. And that is basically been a storm of suck for these fans. Fans don't want to hear that. Blue collar people like ourselves who make 32,000 in this area don't want to hear a multi-millionaire say, you know what? I need a new stadium. And if you're not going to pay for it, well, I'm going to get rid of the fan favorites. You know what, Stu? Screw you. I'm going to go watch the Tampa Bay Lightning and give my money because they're all in. I'm going to go watch the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they're all in. Why should I watch the Tampa Bay Rays when I know the owner is looking at other cities to go to and basically has admitted, and look this up, that he's a freaking Mets fan?
Okay. Again, I'm not going to argue that. I can't argue that because I don't know all the facts on that. But I would say this. If the guy had a stadium and a revenue source where the corporate community was supporting them, like the Lightning, Amalie Arena, I can promise you if the Lightning were playing at the fairgrounds like they used to back in the day, they wouldn't be spending that kind of money on all the guys that they're spending money on because the revenue sources are not there. So a stadium it's a direct relationship between a new facility and the revenue streams that open up with the new facility. Again, I'm not saying Sternberg's done everything right, but what he has done that's undeniable, he's put a winning product on the field with this much revenue, and that's to be commended. You have to commend that from an organizational perspective. I
think from the organizational perspective, it's the reason why you do that is because you want to do that. If you put in an extra, $20-30 million, we wouldn't be talking about the Rays running out rookie pitchers. We would be talking about Charlie Morton and Blake Snell. And instead, they're cutting costs. Look, fans, I get it. Some fans love prospects, but prospects aren't going to win now. They're going to win in years.
That thought, that cutting trading the prospect for the prospects is a result of them not having the revenue streams from a stadium. If they had the revenue streams, and you had another $20 or $30 million in revenue coming in through merchandising, parking, whatever, at a new stadium, they wouldn't have to get rid of the Charlie Mortons of the world. They could keep those guys.
You really believe that? Because I mean, they
have
a TV deal too that they signed. I mean, this all falls on Stu. I mean, he's such a great businessman, and you want your own stadium, build it. Be like Jerry Jones and build it. Why do you have to hold a community hostage to build your own stadium? If you have all this money,
he doesn't have the money. I think he has way more money than he does.
He absolutely has the money. And you know why you know he has the money? Because his minority owners are suing him right now. And the reason why most likely Major League Baseball didn't approve the sister plan is they know that he's holding money back. Look it up. I'm telling you. He's not.
But he has no obligation. No.
He does have obligation.
Again, do I think the Tampa Bay market should build him a stadium scot-free? No way. He should be into that stadium at least 40%, 30 to 40% ought to be coming out of his.
50%. No, I mean, come on.
That's not going to happen, bro. 50%. That's not going to happen.
How can you not pay for half of a stadium? This doesn't happen these days. I mean,
yes, it does.
A pandemic. Who pays half for a stadium? I'll tell you who. The Miami Marlins paid for the majority of their stadium, and guess what happened? They got screwed on that deal, and then on top of it, the owner got rid of all their all-star players, namely.
Okay, let's talk about Let's talk about the Glazers. How much did they pay for their stadium?
And look, I agree with you on that. That was a sweetheart deal, but times have changed, my friend. And then
in another 7 or 8 years, when the Glazers decide that Raymond James is outdated, do you think they're going to pay 50% of that stadium? No way.
Probably not, but they will pay for that stadium to a certain degree. They will find a way. And then on top of it, it's a football state. Okay, let's not fake the funk here. This is a football state any way it goes. But if you have an owner, again, constantly saying, you know what, I can't sustain, I don't want to be here, the fans are garbage. Say that to the politicians. Don't say that to the blue-collar, hardworking people in St. Pete and the Tampa Bay area. It doesn't fly here, especially when there's other options. And that is the problem. The fans know that Stu wanted other options, and now he fell right on his face. So to me, he should pay 50% of the stadium. And then on top of it, the fans of the Tampa Bay area, not just St. Pete, but the Tampa Bay area, should make him sign a contract where he is competitive every frigging year, or he doesn't get a new stadium. How about that?
Yeah, you're in dreamland, my man. You're my man. I love you, man, but you're in dreamland.
I love you too, brother. We're tag team partners of the world here. But I'm just
were we saying that about the Lightning for 3 years ago when they were getting bounced in the first round of the playoffs, and the years before that when they weren't making the playoffs?
You know why, Jason? It's a great point. I'm glad you mentioned it, because Jeff Vinnick didn't come in here and say, you know what, I can't get support from my fans. So no,
yeah, because he had a ready-made arena. He had a ready-made arena. It wasn't like we weren't playing at the fairgrounds.
First and foremost, they won a Stanley Cup a long time ago. Second, he endeared himself to the fans. He gave them jerseys. He reached out to them. He became a part of the community. Stu Sternberg comes off as a New York asshole.
I agree. That part of it, I'll give you credit. I'll give you the point on that. He doesn't do much publicly that we see. involved in the community. What he's doing behind the scenes that we don't know about, who knows? He might be writing the checks to 10 different charities that we have no idea. That part I give you full credit. He does not do a great job of publicly broadcasting what he does to help the community.
He is a public relations nightmare. I would say he is one of the worst owners in professional sports because of what he's tried to do with holding this community hostage.
Okay. All right. Well, do you think there's going to be a stadium in Tampa or St. Pete or neither?
I hope it's in Tampa, but I don't know. I mean, it just seems like once again, he's trying to pit both of these cities against each other. And I get it. That's a part of negotiation. At the end of the day, I hope it ends up in Tampa because long-term, I definitely think they can draw on the emphasis that he shuts his mouth, puts out a competitive team every year, and doesn't have excuses for getting rid of fan favorites. That's it. If he goes all in like the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there could be baseball fans here. They showed over the weekend. But fans want to come out to an event. They don't want to come out.
What has Bill Belichick done for 20 years as the coach of the Patriots? He's gotten rid of fan favorites 1 year early.
Okay.
And how successful has he been?
Well, it doesn't for me, it doesn't always work because here's the thing. Bill Belichick and the Patriots are totally different. They won championships. How many championships have the Tampa Bay Rays won at that time?
But they've been in 2 World Series in the last.
Matter. You have the Arizona Diamondbacks who won 1 and the Florida Marlins, Miami Marlins now that have won 2. Show me championships. If we're talking about Tampa Bay, show me the money. And Stu Sternberg doesn't do enough of that, and that's why you don't have the fans.
You should be killing Kevin Cash about the World Series, not Stu Sternberg.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
That was a Kevin Cash disaster.
I don't necessarily think that was a Cash decision. I think that was on.
Sure it was. You're the manager. You're the manager. Have some cojones and say, Blake Snell, you're staying in the game. I don't care what the GM says. You're staying in the game, Blake Snell, in the 6th inning. Sorry, Eric Neander and company upstairs. Snell's staying in the game. Fire me if you want to, but Snell's staying in the game. That's all you have to say if you're Kevin Cash.
Brother, that's why I love you, because you're preaching to the choir. I said the same thing. In fact, if Blake Snell stays in that game, say that 3 times, almost did that. If he stays in the game, they most likely take that to game 7.
Okay. I mean, again, you never know what happens in game 7. Who knows?
But that's the problem. You're too much on this analytic stuff. I get it. They have success, but what have they done in the postseason? And that's what fans look at. And when you have transient,
I'm going to give you one more thing. We'll be done.
Okay.
The Dodgers up until last year got to the playoffs, got to the World Series all the time, never could win it. Was that not a successful franchise? When you get to the playoffs and World Series every time, but don't win it.
But what did they do? What did they do to get them over? They went all.
They didn't spend any more money last year than they spent the last 3 years before that when they didn't win.
They made the right moves. They got Andrew Friedman, who, by the way, was with the Rays. I mean, how would you feel if you're a Rays fan and you see Joe Madden walk out the door for what? $1.3 million. You see him win a World Series. You see Ben Zobrist win a World Series. You see David Price win a World Series. How would you feel as a Rays fan? You would feel like, you know what? When we get to the postseason, we're only going to get so far. And I love it. Rays fans, well, we spent we went to the thrift store and got some nice stuff, but we didn't close the deal. It's like going to a dance. Again, we talk
How's it working out? How's it working out for the Angels and Mike Trout spending all that money on players for garbage that they lose 95 games every year?
Again, the majority of the time.
Spending a ton of money.
The majority of the time, you'll look at this as a statistic. The teams that spend over $100 million win a World Series. And the times that the Tampa Bay Rays have gotten to the World Series or won a division, what has been most of their salary? At the most, it's been like $70 million. That's unacceptable. Just think about it. Add $30 million, you add a couple players, and guess what? You probably win a World Series, right?
I don't know. It's called sports. We don't know. That's what's called sports.
The majority there's one team with the exception of this.
It's about signing the right players. It's not about just making a trade. It's about getting the right players at the right time.
I agree with you, but it's also the stinginess and the cheapness, which, by the way, Tampa Bay fans have gone through with Hugh Culverhouse for all those years with the Bucs. So you got a guy trying to do the same thing. And you're trying to tell me that they added
$15 million of payroll at the trade deadline last year. Nelson Cruz, everybody loved it.
Wasn't enough. Wasn't enough.
Or maybe that Nelson Cruz just didn't play very good in the playoffs.
And whose fault was that?
That's not Stu Sternberg's fault. That's Nelson Cruz's fault.
Well, it's Nelson Cruz's fault, but it's also Stu who made the decision along with the front office. And once again,
I know you hate the guy, but you got to give him a little credit.
I'm giving the Rays credit, but I'm telling you what the statistics show. Everybody could sit there and say, well, you never know. Yes, you do. If you spend over $100 million, the team that was not closest to $100 million was, I believe, the 2013 Giants. They spent $94 million. The Rays have never been in that vicinity. If you just imagine, if you spend over 100, if you spend 100 to over $100 million, are you a World Series champion in 2008? Well, you only spent 52, right, that year, and you got to the champion. Could you imagine if you added a Jason Bay? How about all the years there where you traded pitchers at the deadline instead of making moves for pitchers like a Cliff Lee or a Roy Halladay? God bless his soul. How come you didn't make those type of moves? That kind of stuff right there festers on a fan's mind. And that's the reason why fans here right now, why I have the Lightning shirt on, why fans love the Tampa Bay Lightning and love the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because they're all in, my friend. Are you gonna not be a Buccaneer fan if they decide to go with Kyle Trask? No, I'm not gonna. No, I have to cover the Bucs, but there's not a lot of diehard Rays fans out there. There are some, but you also have to draw the fringe fan in. And if you're not drawing the fringe fan in and you don't have the diehard fan because you're pushing them away because you're not all in, then you have the 8,000 that you started with. I love you, man. We disagree on this, but I love you. We got to do this on the sports web, man. This is a battle royale. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. Tell everybody where they can find you online. Yes, Monday and Wednesday nights live on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television, 9:00 on I Love St. Pete on Facebook and the Hub. Of course, like and subscribe to the Sports Web. 3 things here, as my tag team partner would say: bring your passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. And by the way, happy Valentine's Day to Stu Sternberg. He is not my sweetheart. And more importantly, can you tell the damn players and the owners to come to an agreement, please, on this lockout? I mean, could they? I mean, could you be any worse of a situation, Jason Powers? I mean, you're going through a freaking pandemic. You have the NFL, which is at the top of their game, NBA, NHL, and you have these buffoons out there. And baseball is America's pastime. I hate to say that because my dad would absolutely kick my ass if he were alive today with me saying this. But baseball is America's pastime, and it's going to continue to pass on because these millionaires are fighting these multi-millionaire billionaires. Nobody gives a stuff. Come up to the meeting room, get it done, get a baseball season going, and stop this nonsense. Nobody who's blue collar in this area or any other area has any understanding of any of this nonsense. And the other bad part is just a lot of local communities, especially in Florida, are getting killed this month by no spring training games. The restaurants, the hotels, the rental cars. So the whole Florida economy is really going to be affected if spring training gets sliced in half as opposed to years past. Shocker. I mean, Major League Baseball has been so disgusting to this organization. I mean, we could go down the list of passing on this area with the Marlins going to Miami, using us for the Chicago White Sox and San Francisco Giants and Seattle Mariners. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I just want to see baseball at the end of the day. I'm a Rays fan. I love the Rays. I just can't stand their philosophy. If they spent $100 million, I tell you right now, I'd probably be a happier person. I'd probably send Stu Sternberg a Christmas card. Hell, I may even send him some Valentine's candy after that. Woo! Well, great opinion, great passion, my man, Peter Blake. Thank you. We will see you soon. Hopefully I'll get off the execution list over on the sports web over there. Maybe I'll get off of death row over there. Apparently I'm on death row. Not with me, buddy. You're not on death row. It's not your last meal. Not on the sports web. You're always welcome, my friend, your family. You're my brother. All right, man. Keep up the great work, man. We will talk real soon as we get into the baseball season. And keep up the great work, my man. Appreciate you. All right. We'll see you next week, folks, on the Powers on Sports podcast. Have a great week.